Hello, my name is iAntonio.media, aka iAntonio, coming to you again at long last for another episode. And this morning, you know what? I woke up and I thought about something that a past student said to me a few years ago, that he actually uses my voice, as in my podcast show, to fall asleep. Now, that is not something that made me feel bad or makes me feel bad. As a matter of fact, it's a little flattering. And we'll be talking about that today, that aspect of my shows. We're going to be talking about me staying true to who I am, the mixed nature of the kinds of shows that I put together, a little bit about short format, content and attention spans, and what I plan to do with my podcast going forward as it relates to things like TikTok, YouTube, and also this very normal, traditional RSS format. All right? So it promises to be a short one, but a very interesting one. Very important as well if you're interested in my shows. So I'm going to invite you to stick around and like it if you like it. And if you don't, lie to me. All right, now starting off, the last few months have been quite turbulent and there are a lot of things that have happened. Now, I won't get into the detail of everything that has happened, but maybe some of you who know me know a little bit about my life, what it is I do, my job situation, and so on. You might have an idea of what exactly I'm talking about. But to put it short, I have changed jobs. I have consolidated my two shows into one. And, my whole situation somehow just didn't allow me. You could say life happened. It didn't exactly allow me to record as many episodes as I have done over the past almost 5 years. Now, I'm at the stage where I have decided again how to readjust and decided again how to go forward. That is the wonderful thing about being an independent podcaster, because I can take assurance, I can take comfort in the fact that, whoever is interested in my show is also interested in me as a person. And when life happens to me, I'm sure that if you are any kind of fan of meaning or substance, then you will understand that this is just how it goes. Independent podcasting also means that you just do it for yourself. It's a kind of an art form that is, luckily for me, not something that I live from. So basically, I can just do whatever I want. So, not going to make a long apology out of this because that's not really what it is. I'm just going to get straight into the first topic of the day. Now, as I said earlier, staying true to who I am, staying true to my art, the things that I do, and also the fans who are genuinely interested in me, the person, or you could say me, the voice. As I've mentioned before, I've done 2 podcasts. The first one I started in, I think it was 2019. Yeah, a little bit before Corona. And I've said it before, sometimes I feel as if I'm the one who called Corona into the world, with my podcast. But the English Coach podcast was founded in 2019. And at first, it was about language. It was, very closely connected to my training practice. It was about providing what I referred to back then as sustainable language acquisition. Das ist nachhaltige Spracherwerb in German, for those of you who speak German. And that still holds true. It was also about taking ownership of my own voice because, as a black man in Germany, in Europe, sometimes, we get the feeling that the voice of us that is shared is only the voice of, music and sports, hip hop and all of these other things that are supposedly cool, but, are not too beneficial to the general masses. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm an academic, I'm an educator, studied many things. I have a little more to share with the world than just a musical perspective. Now, I do appreciate music, the greatest. I have the greatest respect for it and so on and, other cool things. But that's not basically what I'm about. I'm about other things, the whole gamut of topics that I have put together and presented to you via the English Coach podcast and also the follow-up sister show that was presented called Life is Feeling, Counting the Ways. Now, a few months ago, I put both of them together. And now is the time for another change. As I said, I'm staying true to who I am. I'm staying true to my content and, the diversity of topics that interest me. And I will be putting both shows together, both kinds of content, whether it be things having to do with just experience of life, going out, experimenting, testing things out, and also having to do with the adult learning experience and providing what I call sustainable language acquisition. I'm going to put all of these together under one topic, under one show title called iAntonio.media. In Deutsch, iAntonio.media. If you go to iAntonio.com, it will take you to the same place. In German again, iAntonio.com. Now, this mixed nature of things that I'm going to be putting together under the one show title is going to be the same feed. So if you're subscribed to the English Coach podcast, you will be just taken to this. And you don't have to change anything. The only thing you'll see changing is the show art. And as I mentioned, the mixed nature of this is actually a truer depiction of who I am and what I represent. We talk a lot about authenticity these days, and I can't imagine anything more authentic than not being rigid and not restricting myself to present anything that is like too prescribed, anything that is just, well, let's say, I don't even want to say too standard, but just, too restricted. I'm doing the show as an artistic expression. It's an expression of what I'm feeling at the time. It's an expression of what I believe at the time, what I know to be true. And I reserve the right to also change my mind sometimes because that is human. I mentioned before that the whole idea of being human, being authentic, it's actually maybe a little easier these days, especially put up against the contrast that artificial intelligence provides. Artificial intelligence brings with it a kind of a perfection that is not real. It's artificial. And as a human being, I am learning to embrace my own vulnerabilities, my own perfect imperfections, and the little things that make me who I am. For example, changing up my show if I feel like, changing up the nature of the content, changing up my style, and, continuing to be true to myself as a human being first and foremost. And as I've said before, maybe, paradoxically, it is artificial intelligence that is going to bring us closer to the humanness within all of us. So you know what? That is why I have moved to embrace this more organic character of how I present my media to you. And that is why I've just changed it. I'm going to be changing it, changing everything, changing how the show is presented and all of that. And it's going to be now presented under the heading or under the title of iAntonio Media. Another thing that you'll find is that, I'm not really going to be ranting today about short form content and attention spans and all of that, but I'm just going to say really short that as creators, we feel sometimes forced into trying to satisfy the dominant media platforms that are out there by bending and forcing our content to fit to the mold that these platforms require of us. Now, the reason why these platforms require these formats of us is usually having to do mostly with advertising. And that's it, basically. Now, the good thing about an authentic show, an independent podcast, and what I'm talking about is my own show, is that I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything to anyone. It's all about me sharing voice, taking control, as I said, claiming my own voice, forming human connections with people out there, right? Expressing myself, reflecting and sharing these reflections, inviting reflections, which is in and of itself a kind of an organic process. It is not a process that lends itself lightly to advertising. So you will find that it's much more alive, much more true, much more authentic. Now, the short form format, it forces us to try to capture the attention of people, as they scroll through all these apps and, they're looking for a quick fix. They're not looking to answer complex questions. They're looking for short-term entertainment. They're looking for sensation. And as we've heard, many of us have heard, a quick dopamine fix. Now, I'm not gonna block that form totally. I'm not gonna pretend that I don't use it sometimes. I do. But for this show, what I'm planning to do moving forward is to mix it. So you will find that I do my little short forms, maybe in a more entertaining way. Sometimes I bring a little Jamaican swang, or I bring some German, or, some comedy of one form or the other. I may even use imagery, evocative imagery sometimes to get the attention to something else that I'm presenting, something else that I've done proper justice to with long form. And you're going to be finding that here on the iAntonio.media. The long form will be, of course, first and foremost, presented as an audio podcast. You will also be able to find, let's say, still videos on YouTube. And from time to time, I will also present what I like to call video exclusives that you will only find on the podcast page. All right, so that was basically it, giving you an idea of where I'm going with the show and what you can expect. If it doesn't sound like something that you're going to like, you can just unsubscribe right now. I don't really give a fuck, I'm doing this for my people, as I've said from day one. And, in some ways, as I said, it's, just putting out there what I feel at the time. Now, the humanness that I mentioned earlier, this is the last thing, and this is why I'm very convinced that this is the right way forward. Because again, I'll reiterate, it is the perfection, it is the artificialness of artificial intelligence and the dominance that it enjoys now, especially in the podcasting field, that gives me more space to be human. What I've noticed is that learning is indeed relational. It's not about telling adults, because I'm into adult education. I'm not talking about kids right now, but it's not about going to people and saying to them, listen, learn this without giving them a reason. Learn this without giving them some kind of inspiration, right? Eliciting feelings of curiosity, feelings of commitment, bonding, and all of these things, right? All of these things have to be brought to the classroom more and more these days, because you know what? With all the artificialness that's out there at the click of a button, people, I find, are longing for this kind of human connection that is so hard to find these days. You go out and you hear all this artificial, they're purporting to sound human, to speak with empathy and so on. But after 30 seconds, 10 seconds even, you recognize that it's fake, right? And, that kind of pleases me somehow, because, the fakeness, as I said, the fakeness is going to help me to stand out more as someone who is authentic, someone who is human, someone who is, willing to show the vulnerability of making mistakes sometimes, not being so linear and rigid. And it is the kind of thing that sometimes makes the difference even in the classroom as a teacher. Because you know what? It's not the rules that come from up top. It is not the rigidly structured curricula that promise all sorts of unpromisable futures. It is not the dryness, as a language teacher, I always speak of grammar puzzles. It's not that gets people to learn. It's not that causes learning to happen. It's, I find, nurturing a space, facilitating a space, creating relationships and bonds and curiosity, and making sure that the kind of safe space that is held together causes learning to happen. And this is something that's done among human beings, right? So, it kind of actually makes me happy, that I have the scope to still do this. I have my own channel. I have my own media, so to speak, and I can continue doing this, change it and adjust it as much as I want, and I will keep the people who are genuinely interested. You know, my people, again, you are the ones who I'm doing it for. And, I promise I'm going to keep it short today, so I'm just going to leave it right there. It's about, a little over 15 minutes already. And again, I'm very happy to be starting up with this again. I'm just going to publish this. You're going to see the new show art. And as usual, if you want to send me some feedback on that, you can. I'm not going to force you. Podcasting is a very lonely job. Hardly anybody says anything. But after 5 years, I'm still doing it. It's something that I like. I will continue doing it. And I've known this from day one. So again, iAntonio Pattison coming to you for iAntonio.media. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.